Mary with All I Want for Christmas Is You. I don't know, man. I think I much rather like a gift from my Christmas list. How about you? Shelia Sim is joining us in the studio, our studio guest for this morning. Actress, model, but now a positivity psychologist, if I could call you that. And we want to ask you, yes, how did this journey into positive psychology begin?
Well, it really started because I feel like I can definitely do more with happiness for myself. I want to bring out the maximum potential that I can be happy. And also now as a public figure, like there's a lot of people who's always writing in to share about their journey. And I wanted to, I guess, have something more credible to share and not just based on my own experience, which can be very one-sided sometimes. That was exactly what happened. There was a mom who wrote to me and was sharing about her journey.
Oh, right.
And it was a very heavy one about the death of her son.
Wow.
And I feel like I was lost for words and I did not know how to comfort her.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Yeah, so then I feel like, okay, as a public figure, I feel like if I'm going to have to share, because I actually share a lot of my own journey on my Instagram, and therefore a lot of mothers also share theirs with me.
Okay.
And I feel like if this is going to be the path that I'm going, I want to be more credible and to have more science-based advice.
How was it like, So you kind of had to return to school, study and get your diploma for positive psychology. How long did it take? What are the sacrifices involved?
It was actually a very hectic year. I mean, it started off with it's a one year diploma program.
Sure.
And when it first started, honestly, that 1 year was very exciting. Like every day going to school was, I feel like there's so much takeaway for me. And but little did I know that I was gonna be juggling like production. That was expected, right? And then I got pregnant as well towards the second half of the program, and so that was like three things happening at the same time. but I'm very grateful that I started doing this program before I became a mom.
Sure.
Because I feel like now I have so much tools to like help me cope with stress and help me cope with like whatever that motherhood is throwing at me, right?
And it definitely is not a walk in the park. I would say motherhood. I mean, now you are a mother of two beautiful girls. They are what again? 3 and
9 months.
Holy moly. I can't imagine the chaos that ensues from that. I mean, I'm a mom of 3 boys.
I know, my God. Wow.
Which is very interesting that today you are in here to talk about the idea of self-care. I think self-care is something that a lot of us neglect, but I think parents, moms in general, tend to also really neglect their sense of self-care. So can you tell us, what is this whole idea of self-care and why is it so important to engage in it?
All right, first, I think before we talk about self-care, it's definitely related to happiness. And if we talk about happiness, I would say that it's generally divided into 2 very big portions. One is the hedonistic happiness and one is eudaimonic, which very chim words. Basically what it means
Sounds good though.
Hedonistic happiness basically means that you derive pleasure from external aspects. For example, like going for a massage, like taking a shower and stuff like that. And then the other side, which is the eudaimonic, it's more like finding purpose and meaning in life. So both ways also gives you that kind of happiness, but it's slightly different. Like, so eudaimonic is easily achievable, but it's more short-lived. Whereas eudaimonic, it takes a longer time. You need to find your meaning in life, purpose in life. It takes a longer time, but then it's more like it serves a longer period of time.
Right.
So when we talk about self-care, it is very important because it makes you more resilient. If you think about it, if you feel positive about life, if you feel like I can do this, so when you experience a setback, then you are better and able to kind of bounce back from that.
That is a very, very interesting point. I never thought of it this way. I always think like, self-care, because the word care is about looking after yourself so that you can care for others in a way.
Right.
But I never thought that it would contribute so much to resilience. That's a very, very good point. And what else about it that it's so important for each of us to kind of really pay attention to our self-care?
You definitely also need self-care for like creativity. You need positive. So I feel like one of the biggest tool that I've learned in positive psychology is this thing called positive reframing, which means you are able to see a certain situation and reframe the way you look at it and change your narrative, which I think that is one of the most important tool to have. Like, for example, okay, if you see your child like being very naughty and like very mischievous running around, you're like, oh my god, I'm really having such a bad day already, and then like there you are acting out and stuff like that. But instead of looking at him as being naughty and mischievous, you could think like, okay, but what is the strength that is happening right now that you see? Perhaps you can think of it as vitality, like because he's healthy and he's happy and he's energetic. That's why he has the ability to run and be crazy kind of thing. So then if you switch your mentality like that, you're able to see things in a different light. Then you don't get so stressed up. Self-care is really important because I feel like we have so much stress every day in our life.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like we neglect ourselves the most.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know about you. I'm sure you too.
It's too
like,
easy.
There's so many roles that we are playing every day that you don't have the time to just sit down and like, okay, I'm gonna now devote this time to myself to rest.
Oh my goodness, we need to talk more about this, and we're going to head on over to our Facebook Live. Join us on facebook.com/1FM913. Let's talk about how easy it is for us to neglect ourselves, especially in the area of self-care. Come and join us. Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Brightside. We're in the studio with model, actress, and what would be the right way to address you in this area of positive psychology? Do I get to call you a positivity psychologist, Shelia Sim?
I wouldn't say I'm a psychologist. You can, I guess it's a positive psychology advocate.
Oh, I like that. I like that. All right, everybody chime on in. You might have questions about self-care because I think this is something that all of us go through. The part that you just mentioned, that we tend to neglect our sense of self-care. So if you have any questions about this, chime on in because it might just win you this amazing $100 dining voucher from Kuro Hanabi. And there you can enjoy really some delicious, delicious food. So we want to talk about something that you ended off on our on-air chat, which is that we very easily neglect ourselves when it comes to self-care. Why do you think this happens? Why is it so easy?
I feel like it could be cultural as well. Like we just feel like we need to always think of others first.
Right.
And you feel guilty when you devote that time to caring for yourself.
Yes.
And you need to give, and you feel selfish if you take.
I do,
Yeah.
The guilt is really
exactly.
bad. Yeah.
So this is something that I guess we see from our parents, our grandparents, and it's very in the culture, which then brings us to another topic about how culture has changed the way self-care has shown up, right?
Yes,
I feel like it has been really good. The shift has been tremendous. I feel like now you don't see self-care as self-indulgence. You don't see self-care as being selfish. You see self-care as self-centered, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like self-centered is so important. Being self-centered, of course, not over, don't overdo it, where until it goes to a point where you kind of like hurt the people around you. But then certain amount of self-centeredness, I think is really important. Like you have to first care for yourself. I mean, we hear this cliche quote all the time, right? If you don't love yourself, then who is going to love you, or how are you going to love others?
But it's true?
It is true.
Oh. Yeah,
so if you don't love yourself, then you don't have the strength, you don't have the capacity to care for other people. I mean, as a mom, I feel like most of the time where I go crazy and I lose my cool is because I'm lack of sleep, because I have had stressful day at work, because I've had a fight with my husband, things like that, where I don't have the capacity to be there for them and to be present 100%.
Right.
And I think just before attending to them, if I can just take 5 minutes for myself, like just breathe and calm down, or maybe take a shower and just remember that I am the most important person to me. To show some kind of self-care, then actually it would have been much better.
And what you're saying that it's actually simple acts.
Simple
and
acts.
Actually acts that we should be doing, like taking a shower. Because I find that I'm the last person in the household who needs it the most, but is the last one to take it at the latest time of the day.
And also like eating cold food at the same time. And there's a long list of that.
Right. So just little acts, but all of that is really important because like you said, we need to care for ourselves first before we can care for others. And physically, mentally, emotionally, sometimes we are running on empty.
Yes.
Right?
So often.
So you also mentioned about this shift in culture, you know.
Before that, let's talk about a bit about self-care.
Sure.
You were asking and I feel like I didn't really answer the question.
Sure.
So what and comprises in self-care. So I feel like self-care basically means that you just do something for yourself that makes you feel good. It can be anything and it differs from individual. It can go from very simple things like taking a shower to making a phone call, reaching out to your friend, or it can go as deep as going for a retreat, 5-day retreat, silent retreat, like away from whatever that's causing you stress. So it varies for people, but I feel like if you think too much about it, basically don't overthink but if you think too much about it, like, okay, I'm gonna wait until the end of the year where I take like my 1 month holiday, and then that's like self-care. I feel like it could be too long a wait. It's okay and it is important to kind of inject small pockets of self-care into your everyday. Like for me, it's a 5 minutes of skincare routine. Which sometimes feel even a little bit excessive, like 5 minutes when you have a 3 year and a 9 months, right?
Well, everyone on Facebook Live can see that the 5 minute skincare routine is doing her wonders. This is the no 5 minute skincare routine. That one is the have 5 minute skincare routine. So obviously it's good to have, not too long. I need to start doing that too.
And I feel like it's also setting the intention. Like, I mean, skincare can be just skincare. Like, just like quickly put on like stuff on your face, or it can be just a shower.
Sure. Oh, we're going to come on air in just a bit. Why don't we carry this discussion back on air? Come and join us, everyone, at 1FM 91.3. Belinda Kala with Leave a Light On here on the Brightside. I am joined in the studio with Shelia Sim, who is here to talk about self-care, as she is a positivity psychologist, a psychology advocate. And thank you so much for joining us in the studio here today.
Thank you so much, Lavinia.
Now, this is really interesting. Okay, we just came off from Facebook Live. If you had joined us on Facebook Live, you will realize that one of the ways that Sheila takes the time to increase her self-care is with a 5 minute like facial routine, right? You will see from the cameras that it has done her wonders. So you were mentioning about how it's very important. It's about intention.
Yes.
I also get a sense that it's important to actually schedule it in, even into your schedule, you know, like really have it part of your day so that you actually do it. Would you recommend that?
Well, that would be good, but then a lot of times like people forget that.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of the world. I feel like, okay, so let's talk about intention first.
Yeah, sure.
So it's very important to set an intention into what you're doing to make it a self-care regime. Like for example, like I was saying about a 5 minute skincare, it can be just a skincare like you just mindlessly do it in the morning, or you just mindlessly jump into the shower and you mindlessly have a breakfast and then mindlessly take a train to work, and it can all be very mindless. However, if you put an intention to it and say like, okay, you know, I'm gonna devote this 5 minutes of skincare routine and just care for myself and like really feel the massage in my face, or jump into the shower and like, okay, I'm gonna devote this shower time as a self-care, and I'm gonna imagine like the water really just washing away the stress of the day and starting afresh. So it's about setting the intention. So as you were saying, do we schedule it in?
Yeah.
You can. That would be great. However, if you don't and you forget, like, okay, it's making me more stressful to have to like
keep to it.
To keep to it and to have to remember that I have to do self-care. You can, I mean, it happens, right?
It's quite stressful. Now I think about it, don't do that. Don't schedule. Just do it.
It can also be as free-spirited and carefree, like just practice savoring. So savoring is another very big part of self-care, I feel.
Okay, what's that?
Savoring means just taking the moment in enjoying what you're doing. So it can be savoring a meal. Like if you're having a food, a lot of us like have our phone right in front of us, or like be replying emails and watching Netflix on, it's very common, and that's a way of kind of unwinding. However, if you want to savor your meal, just appreciate it and look at your food and like, okay, I'm gonna have this spoon of soup. It tastes umami. Or like, okay, I'm gonna have the noodles. It tastes really chewy today. I really love it. Or this vegetable is very crunchy. So you take the time to savor that meal instead of just like gobbling it down.
It
so
also brings that idea of more intention, like you're pointing out. Okay, yeah.
And there's also many ways of savoring. For example, if you are going, this is very interesting thing that I learned as well, which is savoring pre-trip. I mean, it's the holiday season, right? A lot of people are going for holidays, and a lot of people would realize that some like to plan, and some hate planning, and some really like to talk about the trip after the trip, like post savoring. So this is what I call savoring. Like a lot of people, my best friend loves planning for trips.
Okay.
And this is her way of savoring the trip before it even happens.
Interesting.
So you plan and you kind of like, you're able to visualize like what's going to happen, and you immerse yourself in that moment and like, oh wow, like you're going to have so much fun, and then next we can go to this and that. So instead of making it a very stressful thing, it can be a very enjoyable savoring session.
Hey, that's a very good point. It kind of brings back to mind what you mentioned earlier about changing your perspective, right? Your mindset, how you frame the narrative that's going on. Because I think a lot of people, we all like to travel, no doubt on that, but planning it could be a different thing. So you're mentioning about how, yes, you can actually enjoy the process.
Yes.
And it kind of brings in that whole idea of intention that you bring across here. Wow. Okay, first thing first, I need to get to know your best friend that you can help me plan trips.
I know, right? I save a lot of money on planner.
Okay, so share your friend, okay? We're going to head back onto Facebook Live. Come and join us as well. And we have a question from one of the comments on Facebook Live. We're going to address that question in just a bit. So join us, facebook.com/1FM913. Hey everybody, a very, very good morning to you. And we have this question, one of our Facebook comments. They would like to ask, hey Sheila, where did you take this course on positive psychology?
I actually took this course in Singapore with the School of Positive Psychology. That's the name of the School of Positive Psychology. It really just happened by chance. Like I wanted to study and I wanted to do something. I can't even remember what the story is about, like what was the intention or what was the trigger.
Right.
But I just feel like, okay, I kind of want to do something. Should I do it locally or should I do it overseas and stuff like that? And then when I Googled, it was really brainless. I mean, the School of Positive Psychology was the first thing that popped up. And then when I went to see the school, like everything feels comfortable, and then I just decided to sign up for the course.
Oh, very nice. Would you recommend other courses at this School of Positive Psychology, maybe for people who just want to change their mindset, reframe, like you point out about, and maybe just pick up tools instead of really diving deep as you did? Is it possible?
It's possible. They have a 1-year program, which is the one that I did. You get a diploma cert at the end. But if you don't have that kind of time, which a lot of people don't, you are also able to do a certification course, which is just 3 months.
Oh,
and because it's a school for adult learning, a lot of the courses, actually most of the class happens after 7 p.m. So it's from 7 to 9.
So you could kind of fit it into your work life.
Yes.
And you say it was worthwhile, that whole 1-year commitment. Wow, I can't imagine your evening must have been all burnt up. Weekends too, I'm sure.
But I don't know. I mean, if you're doing something that you're really, really passionate and interested about, I feel like you don't feel that tired. I mean, yes, you commit the time and you feel tired at the end of the day, like your body is tired. But your mind, I feel like I was so fresh and so alert and I don't know, like alive, It felt really good.
Oh, that's wonderful. This is kind of like your whole self-care. You see, you do more than that 5-minute facial thing. I want to ask this. You brought up a few times about the guilt that happens when even we are thinking about self-care, and it's because of that, it's so easy for many of us to then neglect self-care. So what can we do in dealing with the guilt that kind of creeps up on us?
So for me, it creeps up the most when I'm doing my parenting.
Okay.
Honestly, so I'm trying to incorporate this conscious parenting thing, which means the mother and the father, our I would say that our mindset should come first, and us as parents should come first, because we have a lot of baggages and issues that we are dealing with as well. And to be conscious, it means that you don't bring your baggages and your issues into your future generations.
Right.
And we try our best, but it's never 100%.
Sure.
So when I feel like that doesn't happen, then I feel guilty. When I'm like screaming at them and like, okay, I'm having a really tired day from work, or like with my husband there's some tension, and then I scream at them and I feel guilty.
Of course.
And when I don't spend enough time, if I'm having lunch with my friend and I spend like my second one is 9 months old, so it's a lot. She's very needy. She needs me a lot, and she needs me to provide for her a lot at this time.
Yeah.
So when I take the time to have lunch with my friend, I'm gone for like 2 hours. I feel guilty. So the guilt happens a lot in this period for me. What I find is useful is to always remind myself that, you know what, this doesn't happen every day.
Yeah, true.
It's just once in a week. It's just twice in a week. Just make it up, and to her when I'm there. Just be present with her when I'm there with her. So I feel like this constant reminder of showing yourself self-compassion kind of helps with the guilt. Self-compassion is honestly also something that I've only learned in the recent years. Compassion is a very common word in my life, but this compassion is constantly showed to people outside.
True.
The people around me, like, just be forgiving towards them. Like, it's okay, be compassionate towards them. But when I first saw my therapist, and then she asked, do you practice self-compassion? I said, yeah, I do that. But when she went deeper, I realized I don't. I practice compassion, but not self-compassion.
So what is the difference between the two, compassion versus self-compassion?
I was very hard on myself. And being very critical, which I realize a lot of people are like that. You're very critical of yourself, and you feel like, okay, I must do this, I should do this, I don't do this enough, blah blah, and this kind of narrative.
Yeah, of course.
You don't practice self-compassion. Why don't you just tell yourself, it's okay, it's just it's a tough day. And you lost your cool to your child one time, you try your best all the other days, that's okay. I don't tell myself that very often in the past.
So now you actually make because of the awareness that you have, you make an actually conscious effort.
Yes. So we are wired in a very, like, every one of us are wired in different ways, depending on how we grew up or what's the journey that we had till now. There are some things that pops up almost instinctively, that you react to it, or that you're particularly just very hard on yourself about. And those are the things that would always I guess cause guilt, or like kind of eat you up, and then it manifests into like something else. So then those are the things that you need to pay extra attention to. I think it's about really understanding yourself and what you need and who you are. I feel like in the last few years I have spent a lot of time questioning myself, like really ask myself deep questions. And because I know myself well enough now, I know what are the kind of self-care regime or program, or like whatever self-care thing that can help me.
Do you think that asking those questions is tough for everybody? Because like you said, they might not know themselves as well as you did. I mean, you had the opportunity to learn more about yourself, gain that kind of awareness. So how can people take a moment to answer those questions and then be able to care for themselves better? What would you suggest?
So I feel like I totally agree with you that it's tough, because it's like opening up a Pandora's box. Sometimes when you dig, you realize there's so much in there.
For sure.
Which is why I feel like seeking help, professional help, is actually not a bad idea. If you have the ability to, or capacity, or the knowledge to kind of digest and unpack all this by yourself, great. If it doesn't cause you any more stress than you already have, then great. But if you don't, I think it's really not a bad idea to see someone and to just kind of like give you advice from a very professional and unbiased view, and objective one. So I feel like for me, when I started seeing a therapist, it was because I always had questions.
Yeah, sure.
And I never got the answer I wanted. Like I asked friends, I asked family, and because they are very protective of you,
sure.
they always kind of like sugarcoat and they give you like a soft cushion landing.
That's true. True.
Which is not what I wanted to hear. I feel like it still doesn't answer my question.
Okay.
And that's why I went for a professional advice. I went to see a therapist, and I feel like she still provide that cushion. I mean, she's not gonna tell you like you're and you're
or like
da-da-da.
shy away from the hard truths.
Yeah. However,
So,
it's all from a very objective place and unbiased one.
So you could actually accept it more, and
Yes.
thereby you learned more about yourself.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's a very good tip. Go ahead and seek professional help. Talk to a therapist to kind of kickstart your journey to better self-care. I would never have thought of that. So that's really, really good. We're going to head back on air and share with everyone about this. Come and join us, 1FM 91.3. From Eagle Eye Cherry with Save Tonight here on the Brightside. A very good morning to you. We're about to wrap up. Our great chat with model, actress, and positive psychology advocate Shelia Sim. Thank you so much for everything that you shared with us. And earlier on, just a quick wrap up, we talked about the guilt that kind of creeps in, or like how people can be better aware of themselves in order to thereby take better care of themselves.
Yes.
And you recommended start with professional help. It's okay to have one of those 2 sessions to kick things off with a therapist. Could you just quickly share about that?
So I feel like seeing a therapist was one of the best decisions I've made. I felt that in the beginning how it all started was because I always had questions. I always had questions like, why are certain things in my life just not working out? Is it me or is it like someone else? But I never had the answer because I would always ask friends around me. I'll ask like family members, but they always kind of provide that soft cushioning for me.
They're being supportive.
They are being
right?
supportive, yes, and they were just worried about me being hurt. However, I feel like those weren't the real thing that I wanted to hear and to learn.
Sure.
And therefore, I saw a therapist, and it was good because she provided me with the answers, and it was objective and unbiased. It was really solely focused on what I was going through at that point. And honestly, if you ask me, I feel like seeking professional help is a constant for me. Like I don't see them every month, like regularly. However, when there's something that I'm kind of like going through, I will just make an appointment. We are all work in progress, and we always have obstacles and adversities having in our lives.
Of course,
whether it's the grief of losing someone, or a broken relationship, or parenthood. You suddenly you are given this big box of unknown and uncertainty or mystery to have to like look at. So it's like you have to look at this problem, but then you don't have the answer, you don't have the knowledge to solve it.
Or the tools,
or
right?
the tool.
Yeah.
So then I think seeking help is definitely the way to go for me.
And a good place to start as well. We have a really great chime in from one of our Brightsiders. Gurmit says, the problem with self-care is that it can sometimes become an excuse to feed one's ego, and one can become, just neglectful of the needs of others because one is self-caring right now. He says the balance of knowing when to check in and check out versus ignoring the world around us is important. What are your views on that?
Definitely, I agree with that. Which is why it shouldn't be. Self-care is not self-indulgence. It is also self-indulgence. However, it is not overdoing it. I think it's about doing it mindfully.
Yep.
Being self-centered also doesn't mean it has to be selfish.
And it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. But there's always like schools of thought, right? Like it really depends on which state of mind you're in. If you're somebody who's already basically more self-centered, then try to kind of bring yourself in the middle.
Okay.
And then if you're the kind that have very little self-compassion or self-care or self-love, then also kind of bring yourself to be more self-centered. So it's about finding a middle ground.
And good balance.
And that's also comes with knowing who you are and understanding yourself first.
So that would be where you would suggest to everyone to just kickstart this whole discovery on taking better care of oneself. find out more about yourself, right? And like you said, everyone is different.
Yeah.
We need to find our own place
Yes.
in things. My goodness, thank you so much for all that you shared today.
Thank you so much for
If
having
we
me.
want to find out more, because you are a positive psychology advocate, how can we find out more from you and hear your thoughts and things to be aware of?
I share a lot of my personal journey on my Instagram, and that is Sheila, Sheila _Sim, SIM. I also believe that being positive
Yeah.
is not being happy all the time. I mean, we this common toxic happiness thing is like so common these days. So I think being positive, it's also learning to be vulnerable. It's also learning that you
Wow.
can be weak, because weakness is also a form of strength. To be able to show that you're vulnerable is also a form of strength, and it takes courage. So on my Instagram, I often share about my own journey that I'm going through. And I mean, it's honestly, it comes from a place of just sharing and reaching out, because it makes me
Sure.
feel better.
Sure.
But when you are able to be vulnerable like that, you connect with people on a very different level. Like you connect with them on a very I would say intimate
Okay.
level. And I love that I love that community that I have kind of built with my fellow mothers and non-mothers as well on social media, on my Instagram, because we really just need to help each other journey
Yeah.
through a lot of very difficult times in our life.
Sure.
Yeah.
Parenting is not a walk in the park. It is a walk in the park, Jurassic Park. though.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, you've heard of that one.
I heard that one.
Hey, but thank you so much for sharing all that. Definitely want to follow you on Instagram and check out really all that you share. This whole kampong that you've built of
Yes.
parents and moms. And we do hope you will come on back and share more of positive psychology for not just me, but also for our Brightsiders as well. Sheila, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
us.
much, Lavinia. I had such an enjoyable time here. And I love talking about this, because it really and it's like the beginning of a brand new day, a brand new week. I feel like it's just a perfect start.
I feel like you have brought the sunshine onto the bright side.
Aw.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Sheila.
you so much.
The Bright Side on 1FM.
Time. Greatest hit. 1FM.